So normally we have these workshops in a classroom, and we go around and introduce ourselves so we can start networking. And so maybe if you want to type in the chat box, you can start your networking with about 125 other people that are on the workshop for today. Maybe with where do you live, and briefly state your occupations. What you're looking for, because maybe somebody else in the state has a really great idea for you, knows what's going on. So in the meantime, I will introduce myself. So as I say, my name is Rhonda. I work at the Career Force in Duluth. I've been here for about 12 years now, and I was hired on as a dislocated worker counselor. I work with all sorts of clients. I do some of the one-to-ones, I do resume review, I do workshops, things like that. And Sheila, maybe if you want to hop on and say hi to folks.
Yes, good morning, everybody. As Rhonda said, I'm coming to you from International Falls. I will be celebrating 30 years with the state on October 30th, so it's getting close. I have a background in business management and teaching, so with the two of those, I've been able to help both job seekers and employers with their needs. Today, I'll be monitoring the chat. Microphones are muted, so we can only communicate through the chat feature. Looks like everybody found it. If you haven't, there's a little chat bubble in the bottom right of your screen. You can put your comments and questions in the chat, and we'll try to get to as many as we can. Rhonda will stop along the way to take questions. And as I indicated, if we don't answer your questions, we will email you after the workshop as soon as we can, today or tomorrow, and answer your questions. If you'd like everybody to see your question or comment, you can send it to everyone. If you'd like to send it privately, so just Rhonda or myself can see, you can send it to all panelists. And there was a question about getting the presentation after the workshop, and we will be sending all the slides, speaker notes, supplemental materials, and a link to the recorded video to you. We try to do that within 24 hours, so you don't have to try to write everything down. And if you do have additional questions after the workshop, you can type those in the chat as well. We'll leave it open for a little while. Okay, Rhonda.
Thank you, Sheila. Appreciate that. So yeah, lots of great information going into the chat. So if you see something out there and want to make a connection, we don't share the chat after the presentation. So if you want to connect with someone, you kind of have to do it now. So, all right, well, let's get started. So talking about creative job search, right? And now more than ever, I think that employers really need to be creative. They've got an awful lot on their minds with the COVID and people wanting to work from home, and how do I do that hybrid thing and all of this. So they've got a lot on their mind. They're trying to keep everybody safe with hand sanitizer, masks, and in person and not in person, all those things. So what we need to do is make things as easy for them as possible to see that we are the perfect candidate for their position. All right. So what we can do at Career Force is to give you the tools that you need to get in front of that employer and make a good impression. You know, everything's changing on a daily basis. We certainly understand that job loss is difficult, and it impacts absolutely every part of our lives. But to try and keep a positive attitude is going to make a huge difference for you. So we're here to just help you maybe set up a game plan, implement a game plan, if you will, for that next career move, you know, into a new occupation or industry, or stay where you are and just keep searching. So we're just going to help you, like I say, get the tools in order to get started. Obviously, job loss is difficult. I've been laid off. When I started here at Career Force, I had come off of a layoff. And yeah, it does. It affects your entire being, emotionally, psychologically, because we all think that many of us think that our job is our identity. When you meet somebody new, oftentimes you don't ask them how many kids you have. You ask them, hey, what do you do? Where do you work? So when that's gone, it makes it a little bit of a difference. But what we want to do is help you get through that. Maybe creating a good schedule and keeping good records. Starting a budget sheet if you haven't already. If you've been on unemployment for a good long time, you know, there's an end to that, and how you're going to handle that if you haven't yet found employment. It's, you know, they really rank this right up there with loss of a loved one, divorce, separation. So give yourself the credit and let yourself grieve a little bit, because this is a big deal. But also remember that that career, that job where you worked, wasn't the full representation of who you are. You're so much more than that, and that's what we have to remember. And so remember that going through this transition from working to not working to looking for work again is that you need to remember that you're more than just that job. You may have to make a change, but you're going to get through it. And you're going to hear lots of different opinions from lots of different people, but you need to make this your career search, your job search. And when people say things like, well, when I looked for a job 5 years ago, I got a job in 2 weeks. What's wrong with you? Why is it taking so long? Well, it's a different world now than it was 5 years ago. And so one of the biggest mistakes that we can make is listening to what they say and taking that all to heart. But it is a different world, and you just need to figure out your own strategy for looking for work and work with that. You know, some people might tell you, well, LinkedIn doesn't work. Don't even bother with it. Maybe that's just because it didn't work for them, but maybe it's one of your greatest tools. So be sure that you use all the tools that work for you. If you're getting good results from it, you know, keep using it. But you know what, without a job, maybe this is a good time to take some inventory of that last job. How do you feel about it now that you're not working there? Are you relieved because you didn't like it anyway and you were looking for an out? Maybe you're happy, maybe you're sad, maybe you're still angry. Maybe you're super excited. I mean, you might have a blank screen now and you can go do whatever you want. You can look for any kind of job you want to now. So think about things that are okay about it, and things that maybe you lost. Obviously, financially, there's some losses there. Loss of seniority with your employer. Might have to start over again. And you know, that stability. There's new opportunities out there, maybe taking up the idea of some short-term training and getting into something else. Okay, so just give yourself the credit for being emotional about it. And this is a really good representation of that, this emotional roller coaster that you know, on the very left side, that's where the news sinks in. Oh my gosh, I really am not going back to work again at that job. And then you're feeling relief, or you're feeling anger, and then you get some leads. You mobilize your resources, so you get everything together, and I'm gonna go out there and I'm gonna nail this. I'm gonna get a job. You know, taking some action, getting some first real possibilities, and then always remember that some of those leads, some of those possibilities don't pan out. But do what you can do to get yourself back up to the top of that roller coaster, so that you can keep moving on. You'll have good days, you'll have bad days. You know, some days you're just going to want to sit at home in your crabby pants and not do anything because things are not working out so good. But, you know, maybe don't hop on a Zoom networking event that day if you're not feeling so hot. But it's your attitude that's going to get you back to finding a good opening and pursuing that job and getting that job. You know, but we just have to be able to get through this and know that it's perfectly normal. Everybody's going through this. We make a lot of phone calls every day, Sheila and I, and we talk to people who have good days and bad days and great days, and it's just, you know, encouraging to hear that people are realizing that they do have to recognize your feelings, you know, and we talk about that an awful lot. Because it's hard. I mean, it's just really tough, but to give yourself the credit for being upset. But what you do have to do is get that anger off of your mind. You have to find a safe place to go talk to people. You know, come to things like this, like Creative Job Search. We're all here looking for a job. We're here to help you find that job. There's people in the chat that are saying, hey, you know, I'm looking for a job in Maple Grove. I'm looking for a job in Wilmer. I'm looking for a job up in Bemidji. Can you help me out? So these kinds of workshops are really great because it's all pretty darn positive. But finding a safe outlet, who can you go talk to? You might not want to go talk to your former coworkers who also got laid off and are very angry because they're not gonna feed you a good positive, yeah, great attitude, great, you know, good positive energy. If you hang around with folks that are negative about things, you're gonna leave that conversation not feeling as good as maybe you'd like to. So some things will stay the same, but some things will change. But to find a safe outlet, like I say, to go talk to people, you know, and then forgive and move on. You know, COVID is not your fault. Forgive it. If your employer lets you go for some other reason, you need to forgive them because you walk into that next interview and you're still ticked off at the guy that let you go, guy or gal that let you go at the last job. That next interviewer just might see that. So you need to forgive. You need to let them go. Now, whether that's through screaming into your pillow, whether that's journaling and just letting it off your shoulders, writing a scathing, mean, nasty letter to them, whoever laid you off. Of course, you would never send it. You would run it over with your car. You would burn it. You would chew it up and spit it out, something. But it might just help you get it off your chest and move on. You can write the same letter to COVID-19 because that's kind of messed with all of us. But find a way to forgive whatever the situation is that puts you into this situation. And just accept that this is another one of life's changes, and you know you can't dwell on it. You need to just move on. So let go of that past job, because the employers really will want to see that you're ready to move on. You can't go into an interview and diss that former employer. You need to have a positive attitude. As somebody said, attitude is 100%, and that's absolutely true. And that's one thing that we can control every day is how you're going to feel. You're going to feel stronger, more energized, more positive. Those are the great ways to go into job search for that day, into interviewing, into what do we call it? Just researching employers. If you go in there feeling meek or demoralized because I haven't worked in a year and no one's going to hire me because I haven't worked in a year, well, let me tell you, you're not alone in that situation. Like I say, we make calls all day long and there's people still looking for work a year later. So stay positive. Stay as positive as you can. It truly is one thing that we can control in a day. So maybe in the morning you want to say, would I hire myself today? Am I the best of myself that I can be? Am I the best Rhonda I can be today? If I'm going for an interview, if I don't answer yes, I need to work on my attitude before I walk out the door. Okay, I need to be the best I can do. Be the best I can be. Yeah, so it's really about your attitude is huge, and that's in lots of life-changing situations. Attitude will get you through an awful lot. So trying to stay positive. Like I say, talking to others that are positive, keeping in mind that positive attracts positive and negative attracts negative. You want to really continue to be with those folks that give you good energy. Creative job search, job clubs, Watch the careerforcemn.com website for online hiring events. There's a veterans hiring event coming up. There's manufacturing events coming up. It's manufacturing month, so there's a big, I don't have the flyer with me, but you can find it on the website for folks in manufacturing. And remember, manufacturing isn't just the person making the widgets, if you will. It's all that back office stuff as well that supports that entire industry. So if you don't feel like making widgets, but you're good at accounting, that might be something you want to hop onto. You might find support groups. I think veterans have a job club on a weekly basis. I want to check that out. Exercising it's supposed to be good for you. Um, um, it, releasing those endorphins that make you feel better. If you truly are having a really difficult time with this job loss and what do? I hear a lot of people say they're very anxious about going back to work, things like that. You may want to check into some professional counseling, which is A-OK to do that. Just keeping your own mental health in check is critical right now. Positive self-talk, those positive affirmations are great. Some of you might remember you're good enough, you're smart enough, and gosh darn it, people like me. Tell that to yourself in the morning. This is not your fault, okay? These are business decisions that people had to make. And you know that you're capable of making this change. This whole thing isn't your fault. Maybe you even find a better job on the other side of this. But just remember that you're good people, and good things are going to happen to you. So maybe just chat in the and also volunteering. I almost forgot about volunteering. It's great because you never know if you're deadheading roses in the rose garden. You might be working right next to the head of the human resources for Essentia Health up here in Duluth. And that's exactly who you want to be talking to. So getting out and volunteering, A, it feels good to help other people. And B, it just builds on your network. So maybe just put in the chat box, can't find volunteering because of COVID. Oh, good point. Good point. Hadn't thought about that. Safe volunteering. And I think, at least I know that locally our 211 folks have lists of places where you can go volunteer. So you may be able to find a safe place to go volunteer by calling 211. Exactly. You know, just deep breathing, good breathing habits, maintaining some structure, and we're going to talk about that in a minute. Getting plenty of sleep, meditating, humor will help you. So put in the chat box maybe something that you're doing that you find of help to keep you on track, keep you positive. Okay. If you can't volunteer 40 hours a week, certainly that will affect your unemployment. So you need to keep it to a minimum. You may want to check the unemployment site under their frequently asked questions and see if it addresses there. To check on that, because you certainly don't want to jeopardize that. So be sure to check with unemployment on that. So we're going to talk about a game plan and moving forward. Oh, there you go. Thank you, Sheila, for putting in the 211 information. That's great. So these are just some websites that we highly recommend when we do these workshops. Obviously, careerforcemn.com is the state of Minnesota career site. Lots of great information out there. Interest assessments and skills assessments that you can take. You know, doing some of that self-examination, soul searching. What do I want to do next? This is what I've done in the past. This is what I want to do. Find out maybe what some of those skills gaps are. You know, so to find that out, that sort of information. Sorry, I'm wrestling with my mouse here a little bit. interest assessments, skills assessments, work readiness things to find out if I want to get back into work, what do I need? Maybe you need some computer assistance. You can come into one of those career force centers that's open on one-to-one and practice on the computer. You could go to your local adult basic education office. They may have computer classes. You can go to GCF Learn Free and get some computer training. But just don't limit yourself to I can't do this, I can't do that. We'll find something that you can do. So My Skills, My Future is a great site to do some research on different jobs, different industries, if you will. This is all part of doing your homework when you're thinking of making a big job change, career change. Career-wise, at .minstate.edu is a great site. Again, some of these will help you in your research on a company or on an industry to find out if it's going to be a good fit for you. Obviously, the best job is when your interests and your skills sort of collide, because you're going to want to go to work because you have the interest and you're going to have the skills to do it. So encourage you to do both of those things. The mn.gov JobSTAT is to check in to do some more labor market information, maybe to find out if that industry you're looking at is on the rise or if it's not got such a sunny outlook. You want to keep that in mind as you do your job search. Career One Stop, Own That Online, all great workshops to figure this out. But yeah, this just helps you to do your homework to figure out maybe what is my next step. If you do need to renew a certification or get a certification, be sure to check with your local career force location to see if they can help you get that certification. And then, to find out what do you need to do to fill in the skills gap in order to get you into that job. And then, you know what? You make the move or you don't. If you're at a point in your life where you don't want to make a big change like that, you know what, that's fine. Continue to look for what works for you. But if you're ready to make a big change, these are some really great helps. And like Sheila said, you will get this all on the PowerPoint, so you'll have those web addresses as we go through. So this is just a screenshot of the online tools that are on careerforcemn.com. And this is where you can take the assessment, take the skills assessment, interest assessments, find out about some of those jobs that are in demand during COVID-19. Just exploring different goals and different occupations. Also help you build your resume, all sorts of good stuff. This is My Skills, My Future. And this is where you could type in your current or past job and find career matches for that. So if you were a rad tech, radiology tech, and you don't want to do that any longer, what are some other things that you could do with those skills? Might likely be something in the medical field because you got that medical background. You could put in travel agent. I was a travel agent. What would be the next thing to do? Well, you've got great attention to detail because you want to send people to the right destination. You could, go on to do things with those skills, but to find those skills that are transferable is really what you need to think about when you're making a career change. So this is a really great one to check out with the skills and the tasks I used in this previous job. What would be another option for me? So here's the job skills transfer assessment tool, very similar to find occupations that are a good match for you based on your work experience. So what we did is we put in business and financial occupations, so brought up a whole list of things that might be a good fit for you in that field. So Sheila, do we have any questions in the chat box that you want to talk about, or not yet?
Yeah, there's a couple, And maybe you answered this already with some of the resources and tools you brought up, but someone wants to know if there are any assessments for design knowledge. I'm not sure what area of design, but you know, the My Skills, My Future might be good to put your career in there. That might give you some ideas.
Right. You know, and also just doing research on ONET online, you put in the job, it comes up with other jobs as well that might just use a different job title, but are similar jobs, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and I'll put that link in the chat. And Rhonda, are you aware of any workshops that address self-esteem?
I, not right off.
Yeah, we could look for that. There might be something in, you know, the networking groups.
Right. You know, and just kind of in the careerforcemn.com on that getting started section, there may be some links to some, maybe not workshops, but to some thoughts on that.
Okay. And then one other question. Someone wants to know how you go about getting a job which you enjoy when you're at the point where you don't really have to have a certain income. It can be an income of any kind.
Um,
But doing a job you enjoy.
well, you know, and sometimes people like to work through a staffing service if they're trying to figure out what they might enjoy, because you might get a variety of short-term gigs, and maybe they would be different enough that you would be able to find something that you really enjoy. It's kind of, and that's where I think the interest assessment comes up. Is what are your interests deep down in your heart and soul? What do you like to do? And then the skills assessments too. Strength Finders 2.0. It costs about $60. Yeah. Yeah, that's the downside to that. But, you know, take a couple of interest assessments and see if something new pops up. Whenever I do those, it comes back that I should be a farmer, and there aren't very many farmer jobs. But it goes to my, you know, what I really would love to do would be to have a hobby farm. So it doesn't pay very well, but it's just kind of in my heart what I would really like to do. So that's kind of how those things work, is that what do you really like to do? And that's maybe where you'll find out what your interests are. Yeah, getting a temporary contract work can be a great way to get your foot in the door. Yep. And again, yeah, staffing services can help you with that too.
Okay, that's all the questions right now, Rhonda.
Great, thanks. And keep putting stuff in the chat. That's terrific. So let's get preparing for this job hunt. So what really seems to be helpful to folks is to, you know, managing your schedule. Excuse me. Balancing your job search activity so that you don't just sit in front of the computer 8 or 10 hours a day. You need to get out and talk to people still when you can, when it's safe. You know, or even Zoom with people or whatever it is. You know, but you need to balance all of that out. Sheila's going to talk in a minute about some SMART goals, which are great. You want to have things that you're working towards, but really setting up, keeping good records, because this job search thing is taking a while. Maybe from the time you submit your application to the time you interview, it may be a month, it may be maybe 2 weeks. We don't know, and we can't predict that for you. So you want to be able to keep good records so that you submit that application. If they call in 2 weeks, you can easily retrieve what was the job I applied for? What are they looking for? What do I need to remember to tell them in the interview? Things like that. So whatever it is, if it's an Excel spreadsheet, whether it's, you know, a Word document for each place you apply, each employer, each application. It might be recipe card file, you know, things like that, but keeping great records of the jobs you applied for. So keeping a copy of the exact job posting, the resume you sent them, maybe the application you filled out, the cover letter that you sent them, who you talked to, all those things in one place. So when they call, you can say just a moment, or have it ready when you call, so that you know exactly what you need to talk about. And even just all the contacts that you meet up with at the grocery store. You run into somebody that works at a company that you really want to get in and do maybe an informational interview with them or something. Be sure that you keep their name and their phone number handy, so that you can thank them if you get in and talk to that company. You want to be able to thank them for that lead, which is great. Having the detailed record of your work history handy, so that you can just maybe even copy and paste it into applications that you are applying for. And all those usernames and passwords you need. I mean, every company you apply for, you're going to need a username and password. And you're going to want to go back into that account to see maybe the activity on your application, things like that. So keep really great detailed records. Like I say, whatever works the best for you. If you can at home, have your own space with your own computer, your phone charger, so that your phone doesn't go dead in the middle of an interview. Have all of your paperwork, everything in one spot, and tell your family that's off limits. Don't touch my stuff. So that it is always right there when you need it. Okay. Just staying organized. You'll just feel better if you're more organized about it. Your job search. So Sheila is going to now hop on and talk to us about SMART goals. Sheila?
Thanks, Rhonda. Yeah, so whenever I get a tool or a resource to use, it helps to see an example of how it is supposed to work. So with the SMART goal, the purpose of it is to help you balance your job search, stay on track, and hold yourself accountable to what you're doing. And the SMART goal is just a reminder of each step along the way how to achieve that goal. So specific is exactly what do you want to do? What is your goal? And you want to make sure it's something that's realistic. If not, you could get discouraged and give up. So in this example, our goal is to prepare a resume. And how are we going to measure that? How are you going to know you're on track to complete your goal? One thing you could do is set some mini deadlines, use a timeline, or tell a friend, someone that you could be accountable to and could hold you accountable. Or maybe you're going to present a rough draft of your resume to a career counselor in 10 days. That will give you a timeline of what you need to achieve. And then achievable, what resources do you have available to you to help you complete your goal? Some great resources is maybe the resume workshop that CareerForce offers. We now do one-on-one resume reviews. You can sign up for a half-hour session with somebody and have them review your resume and give you feedback. Those skills assessments that Rhonda was talking about, those are a great way to identify your skills and present them on your resume. And then, of course, your job history and then any job descriptions that you might have from your past jobs. Another thing that I have found really helpful when working with people on their resume are letters of recommendation they've received and their past performance reviews, because those two items give you ideas of how other people see you. It's another viewpoint of your skills. So you can really pick out some good things from those to put on your resume as well. And then relevant, why is this goal important to your job search? Well, in today's world, we do a lot of job applications online, and you often have to upload your resume to those, or you have to attach it to an email. So it's really good to have a resume ready to go. It just relieves some of that stress while you're job searching. And then you want to make sure that your resume is targeted, and then as you go along, you can adjust that resume to the certain jobs that you're applying for. So once you have a good base going, it's easy to go in and maybe change your skills section or put the highlights at the top of your resume for the current job that you're applying for. And oftentimes you're going to have more than one resume depending on your background, the skills you have to offer. For example, I have a degree in business administration and in teaching, so I have 2 separate resumes, if I am applying for jobs in those career fields. And then timely, when will you complete this goal? So you want to give yourself a specific date. So in this case, give that date to your friend. They can check up on you and see where you're at with your resume. And then maybe you want to set your goal date as, 2 days after you receive that feedback from the career counselor. You can incorporate their feedback into your resume and then have it complete. And then just remember that you can be working on more than one goal at a time. Just make sure they're manageable to you. And just prioritize what you need to do now, to get back to work as soon as possible. And we will be providing you with the SMART Goals worksheet and the follow-up materials that we send you. Okay. Okay, Rhonda, back to you.
Thank you, Sheila. Really appreciate that. So, next thing is that, let's see, we need to research. We need to do a lot of research about the company because you want this to be a good fit. You want to find out about their products and their services. Are those things that you enjoy, things that you appreciate, things that you use? Somebody did ask the question, do I just take a job as unemployment runs out? Maybe do I just take any job? Those are kind of called survival jobs. They may turn into a great opportunity with that company. You don't know that necessarily in the beginning, but yeah, a lot of people are having to take a survival job. Ideally, we would be able to just get in with a company that we know we want to work for, and get back to business as usual. But part of the research that you want to do is their company size, their history, their locations. Many of you are in the Twin Cities, and you may live in Farmington, and the ideal job you have is up in Maple Grove. Do you really want to spend that much time on the road? So think about that. In Duluth, Minnesota, we 3 cars at a stoplight, and we wonder what's going on up there. It's not very far, but in the Twin Cities and other places, even rural Minnesota, how much time do you want to spend on the road? Thinking about that. Thinking about the company size. Do I want to work for a mega corporation or a small mom and pop place where you can really maybe make more of a difference? It's up to you. Think about those things though. The company's financial situation or their potential growth. Unless you want to come back and do these workshops again, you want to work with a company that's stable, that's good, that's going to be there for a good long time. And so doing that labor market information on the state of Minnesota site for those companies that have a bright outlook. Okay, keep an eye on that. And then also, what's the company's mission statement or their philosophy? One company I worked for down in the Twin Cities was you work all week to stay on par with the competition. You work all weekend to get ahead. I'm sorry, but I want my weekends free. I want my weekends for my family. Think about those things. Maybe some of the recent changes that employers have made, some of the new initiatives, maybe working from home is a possibility now. Maybe 3 days a week at home is a possibility, or whatever it is, or maybe in the summer working a shorter or a longer Monday through Thursday and having Friday afternoons off. That's beautiful. I would love to have that opportunity. Those are the kind of things that maybe you can find out through your research, whether it's through their website or through friends that you know that work there. Some of the human resource policies, some of the, I say that labor market information, and then also, because we're not doing this for a hobby, typically, what are the salary and benefits? And you can find, at least you can find a range or an idea through your research. Okay, because you want to make sure that you are going to be able to, take care of your family and things like that. And part of that is you can find that information through their company websites. Some employers will post the salary. Some employers will post the benefits. You can find some of that out in their job postings. So go to the company websites, get as much information as you can there, and especially, through their press releases. What's new? What's happening over there at that, place that I want to go work at? What's going on? This is exciting stuff. If you work for Tesla, you'll see that you just got a great big new contract with Hertz. Yay, that's exciting. So if you were part of that group or wanted to go work for Tesla somewhere, that would be great information to have when you walk into that interview. Not every company, especially maybe some of those smaller mom and pop shops, don't have websites. So you may need to go to the library's reference section and check with the librarians and see if they've got information on some of those smaller employers, if you will. Again, those career information websites we shared with you earlier, you can get drill down and get some company employer information there. Informational interviews or conversations, as we call them, is sort of call up an employer that you would like to find out what do they do there, especially if you're making a career change. What do you do there? Can I just come in and have 10 minutes of your time, 15 minutes of your time to see what this operation is all about? And you take the pressure of, I need a job, to, what do you do? I want to see if this is an industry that interests me. So obviously, be respectful of their time, but it's a great way to find out, like you say, how do I know if this is going to interest me? That might be one way to take a look at it and see if you can figure that out. Obviously, networking with your researching with your network, is great. Find somebody that works there, works at a company you want to find out about. What is it like? What's the culture like at that where you work? And then coming and talking to us at your local career force location is great. We talk to employers all the time because they're calling us up wondering if we can help them find applicants for their jobs. One quick story, I was doing a job club here in Duluth, and somebody came in and wanted to work at XYZ company down the street, and she's like, I'm just getting started in this industry. What should I do? And I said, well, research the company and go for an informational interview. And she did so much research. The day that she walked in for that informational interview, she had the most current information she knew about a new contract they signed at 4 o'clock the previous day. They were so impressed that they hired her on and they paid for her to get her drafting certification. What is it? CAD drafting. So she just wowed them with the information that she had just by doing her research and just walking in there with great confidence that she knew what that company was all about, because they don't want to have to tell you in an interview what they do. Okay, so do your research, know what you're walking into. So this is one tool, and you're going to hear more about this, I think, next week. Or it's just maybe just an idea. I don't know if they're going to talk about it or not, but it's a business card just for yourself so that you can have something in your pocket, in your wallet, to hand to somebody when you meet them on the street, meet them out walking your dog or at the grocery store. Something that includes your name, your address if you want, or at least the city maybe where you live, so they know geographically where you are, and your contact information on this. And so that when you meet them, they can go back to work on Monday and say, oh, you know what? I talked to Jane, job seeker at the grocery store the other day. She's looking for a job and she might be a great fit here. Let's reach out to her. Oftentimes when you give somebody a card of yours, they give you a card in return. So now you've got permission to give them a call maybe that next week and just say, hey, I saw you at the grocery store, remember? And can we get together and talk about what you guys do there? So we just call it a networking card. You can get them printed up at Vistaprint just to make sure that everything on them is accurate. There's no typos. Your phone number is correct. All that sort of thing. But it's just like I say, another tool you can have in your arsenal of tools. You can put things on the back. Oh, look at that. Thank you, Sheila. Vistaprint, Canva, and print your own cards, design and print your own business cards. That's great. You can put things on the back. You may not want to pigeonhole yourself into just one job, one career, but just give a general idea of what you're looking for, what your skills are, what you're, like proficient in Microsoft Office. That's great. Things like that that are current, that you have confidence saying this is what I can do. Okay, which is really great. So we just call that a networking card. This is what you'll for sure find out about next week is a portfolio, just a nice binder that you can put your paperwork in and be able to bring to an interview to share with an employer. There are online portfolios as well, and I do believe you will learn about all of that next week. So if you have things, work samples and things like that that you would like to show to employers, this is a great way to do that. So finally, we're talking about references. You haven't even applied for a job yet, but you've done your research, you've looked for jobs, you know what you're going to apply for, you're going to go to the interview, and then they're going to ask you for references. You don't share these ahead of time. You choose your references very carefully for the specific job you just applied for, just interviewed for. Because you really want to know, have people that will say good things about you in respect to that position you applied for. So that if you know that this job you just applied for, they're going to go through a computer conversion, say, pick people that you work with that know your computer skills, know your comfort around computers, so that they can say good things to that. Avoid references that may be controversial. Maybe don't use the National Rifle Association unless you're applying for a job at Gander Outdoor in the hunting gun department, whatever they call it. Because then they're going to want to know that you know your way around the product you're going to be selling and that you have experience in that area. So if it applies to the job you're applying for, feel free to use it. Using peers, people that you used to work for, those supervisors. If you've been in school recently, maybe those instructors that you've had can talk about what kind of a student you are. Great student, always got her work done on time, good grades. Everybody in the class liked her. All those different things, because employers also want to know they'd love it if you had the skills for the job, although many of them will train to their specific employment. They also want to know that you're going to get along with the rest of the team, your coworkers, right? So you can even use clients that you worked with in the past, because they're going to give even a little bit different perspective on you as a reference. And part of picking your references is that when you do ask them to do that, you're going to get their permission. Let them know, I'm going to be giving your name, or can I give your name to XYZ employer? This is the job I applied for. I'll send you a copy of the job posting, and I'll send you a copy of my resume so you know everything about me. And be sure to tell them that we went through that computer conversion a few years ago, because I know they're going to be interested in that. So you can give them a little bit of a heads up, if you will, on what to be sure that they mention, because you know that's important to them. Make sure that you get their information on where they're going to be. Now we're coming up on winter time. If they go to Arizona and they live in a place where there's no cell service and they use their landline, be sure that you include both phone numbers when you turn them over as a reference, and your reference sheet over. So be sure that they are available and will be available. Like I say, sometimes this takes a month before an employer gets a chance to call them. So where are you going to be for the next month or so? Be sure that you have that current information. And of course, thank them. If they were helpful to you in getting that job, you want to thank them profusely. They have other things to do apparently than just sit and be references for people. And if you don't give them a heads up, you get that phone call, yeah, can you, and you haven't let them know you're using their name, that's kind of a surprise phone call to be a reference that you're unaware of. And they may not even answer the phone if they don't know the phone number of who's calling. So be sure that you give them a heads up on that. So Sheila, it looks like there's a couple of questions coming through. Some you want to talk about?
Yeah, I'll go back a bit here and pick up some. One is someone wants to know, what if you have the talent, the skills, and experience for a job, but not the degree or piece of paper they're asking for?
You know what we've been told. I mean, the job posting, they're asking for the moon. They're asking for the absolute ideal candidate, right? If you've got skills and experience in that industry and 80 or 90% of what they're looking for, I would recommend applying for the job anyway, because that may be of more importance to them than that actual piece of paper. A lot of job postings that we've seen lately say they want that degree or equivalent work experience in education. So I would still apply for it. You might be putting yourself out there, but it's okay to do that, to apply for those things. Some government jobs, some jobs, if it's required, it's required. If you don't have it, you're not going to get past it. But if you don't apply for it, you don't know where you're going to be able to do that.
Okay, and the next one is, what if you have extreme anxiety that makes it hard to talk to people in general?
I think that, and that's where maybe joining a networking group where you share what's going on would be helpful. And that again is maybe if it's so extreme, some professional help. But just getting out and talking to people, and getting comfortable doing this sort of thing, a Zoom interview. Find somebody you can practice this with, because this might be the way we do things for a while. It might be easier for somebody with anxiety to do this rather than in person, sort of practice and get comfortable with it. But yeah, you got to get over that hump. We've been locked in our houses, some of you for a year and a half, going on 2 years. I can understand the anxiety, that's for sure.
Yeah, and I would also recommend, doing a mock interview with someone at Career Force, because they now offer one-on-one appointments, and you can certainly sign up for one of those and, do a practice interview.
And you can do that in person at those locations that are open, or by Zoom, whatever you need.
Right. Another question, this came up a couple times. People are kind of overwhelmed with the thought of, having more than one resume. And how do you go about leaving out, information when you worked for, a same employer for a long period of time? One thing I suggest in this instance is, maybe you have to go to a different resume format, maybe a skills-based format. And that resume workshop is excellent for getting information on that. Rhonda, do you have any suggestions?
Oh, I do love the examples out on careerforcemn.com. Do a search for resumes, and they've got chronological resumes. They've got the functional or the skills-based resumes out there, because you have different areas of expertise, if you will. And so to be able to, especially if you're making a career change, these are my skills in the finance area of what I did, or accounts payable, receivable. These are my customer service skills, those sorts of things. So that whatever you think is going to make it easiest for the employer to see what you can do for them. And so having a skills-based resume like that, you can basically move those chunks around, so that if you're applying for a customer service job, you move the customer service chunk to the top, that sort of thing. But it's your resume. You're not going to have one resume that fits everything. It just doesn't work. You have to make it different for every employer that you apply for. Yes, the
Okay.
recording will be sent out with an email probably tomorrow morning.
Yeah. Do you want to finish up, Rhonda? And then if we have time, we could answer more questions?
Yeah, that sounds great. So this is your homework, or this is what we've done. We talk about recovering from that job loss. It's a big deal, and give yourself the credit for being upset and face the challenges every day. I mean, you're going to have different challenges with different employers, with different job postings. Like I say, how do I let them know that I'm the perfect person for this job? Keeping that positive attitude, however you can, is going to be a game changer. Getting organized, creating your game plan, setting those SMART goals that Sheila talked about, keeping you on task, doing an absolute ton of research on the places you're applying for jobs, and then just gathering up those tools. Stay in touch with Career Force near you. I encourage you to check out the website. I encourage you to also sign up for on the DEED site, mn.gov, for information on job fairs and things like that, and get those things pushed out to you. I get emails all the time about free training. Here's one up in Grand Rapids. Delta Airlines has walk-in interviews up in Chisholm twice a week. You'll find out about those things if you stay in touch with us. Post office is hiring. I was there the other day, and the post office is hiring. So keep your eyes open, stay in touch with us, and good luck in your job search.